GCUC is a global co-working and conference community. We've had our fingers on the pulse of co-working since 2012, and we've connected thousands of operators, both in person and online. On the Juicy podcast, we talk with the people making it happen day in and day out. Let's get to it. Hey, everybody. Welcome back to the Juicy podcast, the voice of the global co-working movement and the future of work. I'm your host, Liz Elam. Today, we're thrilled to bring you a guest who absolutely lit up the stage at Juicy Boston this past April. If you were in the room, you already know what I'm talking about. His keynote was one of the most talked about sessions of the entire event, and you should have seen the line when we gave some books away. It was bold, research-driven, and deeply validating for those of us championing flexible, distributed, and human-centered ways of working. Dr. Choudhury is a professor at Harvard Business School, the world's leading research on work from anywhere. His work has shaped how Fortune 500 startups, policymakers, and co-working leaders think about the future of work. And now with the release of his new book, which is great, I've read it, The World is Your Office, he's giving all of us a roadmap for how to unlock talent, productivity, and innovation no matter where people work. Raj and I are in actual violent agreement that work from anywhere is not just the future, it's a competitive advantage. So in this conversation, we're going to dig into what's moving, what's stuck, and what co-working spaces can do to help facilitate the change. So good morning, Raj. You've been all over the world. So this question is actually perfect for you because I have found that morning routines are a game changer. So tell us, what are you consistently able to do as a morning routine?
So I'll confess, I'm not a very good early riser. I tend to work, but I've always wanted to be a morning person. Yeah. So I probably, but as a discipline now, I'm trying to not jump out of my bed and start emailing people. I'm trying to spend mornings in more contemplation, in reading and writing.
I love that. And that's something I've been doing pretty consistently for over a decade. And I will tell you, it's a game changer to start your day, I think, in quiet contemplation. And I struggle too. Like I want to reach for my phone and look at Instagram or whatever. But it's so much better to get centered and do your thing. I've actually even started meditating. I just do 10 minutes every morning. What's really great is I have a puppy and he knows and he just comes and settles whenever it's time to meditate. He basically meditates too.
Yeah. We saw the puppy. Yeah.
Okay. So Juicy, it was your first time. What was surprising to you about Juicy?
I was just amazed at how much positive energy was in the room. You did an amazing job of bringing together people. And I was amazed at the scale of the conference. I was not expecting so many people.
Yeah.
So I would love to come back in future years.
Oh, don't worry. You're going to be asked. It was fantastic to have you. So you've been a very definitive voice on work from anywhere. For those of new to the concept, how do you define work from anywhere? And what's the competitive advantage for organizations?
Yeah, so it's very simple. So the first thing I tell people is work from anywhere is not the same as work from home. It's very different from work from home. So what work from anywhere is giving workers the freedom to choose where to live. So which city, which state, sometimes even which country they want to live in. And once they've made that choice, they can work from home. They can go to a co-working space, which many work from anywhere workers do. Or if a few of the colleagues are in the same small town somewhere, you can even start a satellite office. So work from anywhere is all of that. So work from anywhere, again, is the freedom to choose where to live.
Got it. And what's the competitive advantage for an organization for allowing people to live anywhere?
Yeah. So again, it's very simple. What work from anywhere does is lets companies hire from anywhere. So what you're doing is you are now expanding the talent pool from which you can hire. You're no longer constrained to one city or one state or the East Coast or West Coast. Now you can hire nationally. You can go to Canada. You can go even more global. So it just opens up the labor market.
Right. And then, so we're in violent agreement that that's not just viable, that's the future. And I think it's a real strategic advantage for companies because, I believe what COVID showed us was that we have choice. we don't have to go where you tell us to go anymore, that we can now go where we need to go. And during that time, we also really enjoyed the freedom of getting things done during the day that we couldn't get done before. So why I feel like adoption is very slow. Is it just slower than we want it to be, or do you think it's on the right track, or what's the holdup?
So I would say, like any new, big transformation, there
Hmm.
are leaders and laggards in this. And some of the leaders are large companies. So
Hmm.
Spotify, Airbnb, Atlassian, and it's not only all tech. So one example I like to make is the European Central Bank, which is the world's second largest federal bank, has a 110-day work from anywhere policy. And their memo says it, that this allows them to hire from anywhere and compete against Deutsche Bank and the private banks. But I think the other sort of leaders are this new generation of startups, which I call the all remote startups. So in the startup world, work from anywhere has already become the dominant model. So if you are
Hmm.
starting a company today, you're not going to look for a lease. Now, of course, having said that, like I said, there are laggards, and some of the laggards we can talk about why they're lagging.
Yeah. So, like, I feel like a lot of companies are using it instead of firing people, right? They're using it as a tool to get rid of people because I don't know if there's research on this or not, but I really, what I'm always telling people is if you don't give them the choice, if you tell them they have to come back to the office, what's going to happen is you're going to lose great talent and then your policy will change. But first, they're going to have to lose some great talent. And
Yes.
so to me, it's like the perfect way to attract great talent is to be flexible and work from anywhere and live from anywhere.
Yeah, and you're totally right, Liz. So your hypothesis is now something we have evidence on. So
Mm,
there's a team at the University of Pittsburgh, and they looked at all the return to office mandates in the past 4 years. And what they find is these RTOs have no impact on the financial performance of companies. So
mm,
neither positive or negative. But the only effect they could find was on attrition. So on
mm,
average, RTOs are followed by about 9% employees leaving.
mhm,
And that percentage is higher for women. It's about 12% women leaving.
mhm. Yeah, and then I wonder though if one of I think the other thing that has to be taken into account here is the fact that you can scale down your office footprint, right? And that's a huge savings. If you are like, we don't need space anymore, you can save a ridiculous amount of money.
For sure. So I make the business case using four things.
Okay.
The first thing I talk about is you're not only scaling down real estate, you are making real estate a variable cost.
Mm-hmm.
So if you are meeting only for retreats or you're meeting 1 week every month, then you don't need your own lease. You can go to a co-working space
Mm-hmm.
and you are using space like you would use electricity. You're only using it when you need it. The second thing I talk about is productivity gains. In my research, I found work from anywhere in the US Patent Office led to a 4.4% higher productivity. But I think the heart of the business case is neither of those two. The heart of the business case is attracting and retaining talent.
100%. And, we did a study back in 2015 that was in the Harvard Business Review. I did it with Steve King, where we found 89% of people in co working spaces were happier, 86% were more productive. It's just like the perfect place to go put your employee to get them connected, to get them out of isolation, and to give them a place to go have those serendipitous encounters, hopefully. One of the things a lot of people have parroted back to me from your talk was that people really, gather with people they feel comfortable with, that look like them, that act like them. And so some of this serendipitous encounters that you're wanting don't really happen. So could you expand on that a little bit?
Yeah, so this is something that has been called homophily, that as human beings, we have this subconscious bias of going and grouping in small silos. And you'll see this everywhere. You'll see this in office
Mhm.
parties. You'll see this in in when there's a school event where the parents are showing up. You see this
Mm-hmm.
in the
Yep.
playground. So you see these groupings by gender and by ethnicity.
Mm-hmm.
And so the argument, and that's exactly what we found in one of the retreats we studied, that when people went to the retreat, yes, they made new connections, but they made new connections with people just like them. And so the argument then I've made is it's not okay just let people go and mingle. You have to
Mm-hmm.
what we call engineer serendipity. And
Yep.
so you have to make diverse people talk to each other. And in our study, the way that happened, the silos were broken was when two people traveled in the same cab from
Mm.
the airport to the retreat. Because when you're sitting in the back of the cab, doesn't matter if the colleague next to you is different from you, you start a conversation.
It's so interesting because one of the things I think you witnessed is Juicy is we do these things called roundtables, right? So we group people based on a topic. So we did that on the second day of Juicy. And a lot of the feedback from this year was, I wish you would do that on the first day because I met so many different people that I wouldn't have met if I didn't go sit at that roundtable.
Absolutely. Yes. I think that's a great example of engineering serendipity.
Yeah, and I think the one thing it's really interesting because it's one of the things that we say sets co-working apart from like quote unquote flexible workspace, which to me is just real estate doing flexible lease terms and flexible walls, is that co-working spaces have community managers. And those community managers are the ones that are out there helping facilitate these serendipitous connections, right? Like I ran a co-working space for 8 years and we were constantly like, hey, Joe, you're in advertising. So is Susie. You guys should talk. And like they wouldn't have talked otherwise. And so it's something that co-working spaces do very naturally. And in my opinion, that's the differentiator. That's the thing that sets co-working apart. That's what gives co-working soul is that we understand that people need to be connected. So,
Absolutely.
yeah. So, Raj, what can co-working spaces do to better attract and find, do you think, these work from anywhere folks? Because we want them. Please send them to us. How do we get them? Because I think one of the things I actually hear from a lot of the large operators, I had an opportunity to sit down with some CEOs recently in Boston, and they were like, we need somebody to go sell to the corporations. Now, a lot of the aggregators are, but any tips, tricks, hints for us is we want your refugees. Send them to us.
Yeah. So I've since Juicy, I've been thinking about this and
Oh,
2 or 3 ideas. So one, there are some portals now which are specifically focused on work from anywhere jobs.
mm-hmm,
So I know Flex Jobs is one of such
mm-hmm,
portals. So I think co-working spaces could look at the companies that are offering positions on Flex Jobs
mm-hmm,
and reach out to those companies. And the thing is, they don't have an office because they're all remote, but there'll be a
mm-hmm,
person, and you can reach out to that. So that's the first thought. Use
mm-hmm,
the job portals to find the companies, and then say, hey, your workers, you can give them like a coupon, and then use that coupon for a discount in our co-working space all over the country. The
mm-hmm,
second idea I've had is I feel there's an opportunity for co-working spaces all across the country to also become a venue for team meetings and retreats.
mm-hmm,
Because
mm-hmm,
not every team is going every day now. But if there is an opportunity for a team to come together for a week, and let's think about a sales team, and they meet 5 times a year, and this is actually real. This is one of the teams I'm working with. They go to these sales conferences, but at the end of the conference, they all stay back for 3 days and do a team meeting, which I think
mm-hmm.
is phenomenally smart. Uh,
Yeah.
but the conferences are all over the country, in LA and Austin. So if you can find such a team, you can then book them for all their team meetings across the calendar year. So that's the second thought.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Yeah. It's interesting because pre-pandemic, a lot of like kind of classroom space and large meeting rooms weren't doing very well. Post-pandemic, they're booked all the time. That was actually one of the first things we saw come back was teams needing to get together. And I was actually recently with a very successful operator in New York City, and he said that he's basically doing, flexible office and he's doing event space. and his event space is doing better than his co-working/flexible office. So yeah, like I can validate that's definitely happening, and we definitely love to have more of it. But I also think a lot of people are in the process of redesigning their space because what worked before isn't necessarily working now. And I actually have a question for you on that. And I know this is a little out of left field, but if you were designing a co-working space optimized for WFA professionals tomorrow, what would you include and what would you avoid?
So I think it's a great question, Liz. And my sense is, like any product, you need to find who the customer is. So, I think for a co-working space, there could be 2 or 3 types. And you know this better than I do. There could be that person who just needs to get out every day from home and sit in an office and do the work, the solo worker. That space would be very different from the team that meets 1 week every month. And then the purpose of that week is not to sit and work. It's to do meetings and mentoring sessions and just have fun. And I feel there might be an opportunity to create sub-brands of co-working spaces or specialize for certain kinds of. So I think the real question here is, why are people in a physical space? And if you can nail that, why would a work from anywhere person be in a physical space? Is it because they don't have a home office, they need privacy, or are they meeting colleagues? And then you can design the space around that purpose.
Yeah, I love that. And I mean, we've definitely seen, I know you've done a lot of work on isolation and loneliness. And, I think one of the thing that drives me in the world is, it was funny, I was recently talking to a CEO who was like, tell me again why you do this, because it's not like I'm making a ton of money or anything. I do this because it's a passion project, because I fully believe that people need spaces during the workday where they can go connect with other humans. And so that they're not working in a silo at home alone with a door closed and, kids screaming on the other side, or their wife irritated or their husband irritated because they won't go fix something. Like, you need a place to go connect. And I just think it's really, really important with, isolation and loneliness just absolutely through the roof and not getting better, that we need to find a way to connect these people with these spaces where they can find connection.
Yep, absolutely.
Hey there, if you're in the co-working and flex space industry, or even just curious about it, you need to be at GC. We've got 2 amazing events lined up for you. First up, GCUC, happening this October in London. Tickets are on sale now and the lineup is looking incredible. Can't make it across the pond? No problem, we've got you covered. GCUSA 2026 is headed to New York City, and we'd love to see you there. At both events, you can expect expert-led sessions, small group roundtables, a vendor expo, and non-icky networking. We've got drinks, dinners, after-hour hangouts, and tours of the coolest co-working spaces in town. It's where the future of work meets real human connection. So, what are you waiting for? Head over to juicy.co to grab your ticket today. We'll save you a seat.
Yeah. So the other thing that everybody mentions to me about your talk is digital twins. So can you talk to us a little bit about digital twins and what we can expect there? Because I think we're all, after hearing your talk on digital twins, that part of the talk, everyone's like, I want that. When is it happening?
Yeah. So the thing is, it's already happening. It's a real phenomena. So a digital twin is a copy of any physical operation on your computer in real time. So it could be a hospital ward, it could be the ER of the hospital, it could be the airport conveyor belts, it could be a manufacturing plant, it could be a farmland, a piece of farmland growing broccoli, and you can see it in real time on your computer. And that's very much possible today with sensors, with the cloud. And then once you have that digital twin on your computer, then AI algorithms can run that whole thing. So AI algorithms can predict how much irrigation is needed today given the climate, or which patient needs attention based on their vitals. And so in the book, I talk about digital twin examples from a Unilever detergents plant in Brazil. Then I've done work with a power generation company in Turkey, and then the virtual ER rooms in the New York hospitals. But I think the work from anywhere implication is, because of digital twins, now many manufacturing workers or doctors and nurses and physiotherapists don't need to be in person. So I see a great opportunity for co-working spaces to become the home for these people. So if the doctor is monitoring patients remotely and doesn't want to do it from home for the reasons you described, maybe the co-working space can provide the doctor with that quiet, but also the opportunity to connect. So I see these blue-collar workers, these doctors, nurses, manufacturing workers, turbine engineers, anyone who's working with a digital twin as a future client for co-working spaces.
Love it. And then how can co-working spaces use it? Just make a digital twin of your co-working space?
Absolutely. And that's already happening. There's a whole phenomena of digital twins of buildings. And these are called the Global Capability Centers, the GCCs. Actually, not a lot of people know this, that in the Indian IT industry has gone after the GCCs with a lot of energy. So today you have many GCC installations in India with sitting in Mumbai or sitting in Bangalore, they're controlling global offices. So the air conditioning, the electricity, the security, it's all being done from India because it's cheaper. So yes, I think buildings can also have a digital twin.
Yeah, I'm really actually very excited with everything going on in India. Like co-working is absolutely exploding there. And I think we're seeing some different iterations of co-working. Like one of the first co-working spaces that we've ever seen that could successfully work in a restaurant was out of India. There've been lots of them here in the US and they don't work. But in India, it worked. And so I think that we're going to see a lot of innovation coming from the India co-working scene, which is exciting. And then so interesting on the digital twins. So what's the biggest mind shift required for leaders managing these distributed or asynchronous teams? And how do you manage trust at that scale? Because this is where we start getting people are like, oh, they're not going to work or they're going to, all of that stuff. How do we get over that?
Yeah. So, you've hit a very, very important point, Liz. So, a lot of the criticism against distributed work and flexible work and remote work stems from CEOs who have this issue. And when they criticize remote work, what I tell them is you are confounding one problem for another. The problem is you have not hired the right person. And you don't have the right performance measurement systems. Because if a person is going to shirk, they will shirk in office too. It doesn't matter. So you just have the wrong person and you're not measuring performance correctly. So my solution, and I write about this in the book extensively, is that work from anywhere needs both an accurate way of measuring work output. So performance should be measured based on the quality of work, not based on how many hours I work.
Right.
And then hiring needs to really find people who are intrinsically motivated, who can do this. And if you've not done that, then again, you've hired the wrong person and you're not measuring performance correctly.
I love that. I have a coach who always says to me, do you have the right people on the right seats on the bus? And I think that's very similar. So WFA has really opened up global talent pipelines. How do we ensure that we're not just hiring for hiring, but building inclusive cultures against time zones and languages? And then the other thing that I wanted to ask you about is I've actually occasionally run into tax implications and are there companies that can help with that? Because all of a sudden it gets complicated if you're paying somebody in India and you're paying somebody in California and you're paying somebody in Florida and you're paying somebody in London.
Yeah,
so
absolutely.
I know that was a very large question.
Yeah. Now let me answer the second part first. So yes,
okay.
I think there are these new companies that are being called the employer of record or employer on record EORs. And they would do that for you. They would have legal presence in every country that's needed. And they would hire people, administer benefits, pay the salary, cover all the labor laws. And then that person would work as a contractor, just on paper. But in reality, that person would be as much as an employee as anyone else. Okay. And that's what the startups are doing. The startups are, so one example I give is the Zapier example. So Zapier is a company I've studied quite a bit. They have 800 employees, no offices. but the 800 employees come from more than 30 countries, and they come from more than 160 cities.
Wow.
That's just, just think about that. That's a new type of multinational company. 10 years back, Zapier would be in one city in Silicon Valley, and now they're across 160 cities. But they, to a large extent, their employees are hired by the EORs and then contracted out. So that's the solution. On the first part of your question, Liz, I feel one of the biggest benefits of work from anywhere is that work from anywhere has the possibility of spreading talent out. So for 30, 40 years, economists have told us that the way to go is to create 50 mega cities around the world, and everyone needs to come and live in a mega city. So this has been the model, right? So in the US, if you grew up in anywhere in the heartland, you leave your town after high school and you move to LA, Austin, New York, Boston, one of these 10 places. And my argument has been that has led to many societal problems. So think about what's going on with the country right now. There's a lot of angst between the heartland and the coastal cities. And so work from anywhere is a centripetal force. It distributes talent to smaller towns.
Yeah.
And so from the point of view of equity, and people want to move to smaller towns because they are cheaper. The housing costs are way cheaper in smaller towns. So I feel the biggest benefit of work from anywhere will not happen to companies or individuals. It'll happen to society because we'll spread talent all over the country.
I love that. I hope that happens. So let me ask you this. Is hybrid just a compromise for now, or do you believe we'll see a full embrace of WFA? Or do you think it's going to be still like what we're really seeing in co-working is people are coming in 2 to 3 days a week? And that seems to be the kind of homeostasis for right now. And I think it's because everybody has errands to run. Everybody has classes they want to go to. Do you think it's ever going to be completely remote?
No, so I don't think completely remote exists. And what I do in the book is I try to expand our definition of hybrid. So what I say is that what most people call hybrid is what I call weekly hybrid. When you are meeting every week, that's what I call weekly hybrid. Okay. But there are at least 2 other forms of hybrid that I write about in the book. One is what I call monthly hybrid, where you're living wherever you want to live, and you come and you meet your team for one entire week every month. So that would mean you can now live in Connecticut and drive to or take that train to New York only once every month and go and get a hotel or an Airbnb and live there for 3 days in New York and come back. So that's monthly hybrid. And that allows for regional work from anywhere. The final form is what I call quarterly hybrid, where you're living anywhere in the country and then you're flying down to some location or taking the train and you're going to meet the team once a quarter. And many startups are doing that. If the company goes for quarterly hybrid, then you can have a national work from anywhere or even a global work from anywhere. And that meeting location can then switch from coast to coast. So I would say hybrid is 3 forms: weekly, monthly, and quarterly. And the monthly and quarterly forms of hybrid allow people to work from anywhere more than the weekly one.
So interesting. I was just talking with Liz Simon from Industrious, and what they do is everybody goes on Wednesday. They call it their hub day. And no matter where you are in the world, you just go to the closest Industrious and work from there that day, and everybody knows it. And it's just working really well for them. Also funny because I'm going to date myself now, but in about 2003, I had a fantastic inside sales rep when I worked at Dell. And she was in Austin, and her husband was taking a job in Houston, and she's like, I'm going to have to quit. And I was like, no, you are a fantastic salesperson. You can't quit. And I was like, I'm going to change it so that you can work from Houston. And so I went and I met with the management at Dell, and they were like, we've never done this. It's not going to happen. And I was like, it can totally happen. I know you can you can move that phone number to Houston. And it had to go all the way to Michael Dell's board. And we got approval for the first ever remote inside salesperson at Dell. And she had to come back once a month and attend a team meeting. And so that was the first, we had lots of outside, account executives that were remote, but this was the first inside salesperson remote ever at Dell. So it's funny because when I saw recently that Dell had this huge, you have to return to the office mandate stuff, I was like, oh my God, you are so going backwards. You guys were a leader. This is so frustrating.
Yeah.
But anyway, so I am very excited for the future. And, it's interesting. I was recently keynoting in Spain and I kind of reviewed my mega trends, and we're just seeing tremendous momentum. Like I can feel it, momentum in co-working. Was just in New York last week and went to a co-working space that sold out in 1 week. Absolutely love to see that. And I'm really feeling this momentum. And I'm curious if you're feeling that too, because I know you just have been all over the world. Are you feeling this just like positivity back towards co-working, towards people gathering? I feel like maybe now that it's been 5 years, we can finally put COVID to bed and it's all back. Like even San Francisco is coming back.
No, absolutely. I feel that energy, and people have now reinvented in person, and they are still reinventing in person. And I see a great future for co-working spaces. And the simple logic, again, to summarize, is co-working spaces turns real estate into a variable cost for a company. So instead of signing up a 30-year lease with 70% capacity, you can rent a co-working space when the team is meeting.
Yeah, it's just on demand whenever you need it. I love that. Okay, so this is the last fun question. If we're taking all your jobs away, but they're just on hold, you get them all back. If you could work from anywhere next month, anywhere in the world, where would you go? And what kind of environment would you be seeking out to do your best with thinking and also get some rest?
So and I'm being honest. So, it won't be one single place.
Okay.
Next month, actually, I'll be in my favorite city in the world. I'm going to be in London, but I'll be in different parts of London. So the days I like quiet, I'll be sitting in Regent's Park in one of the corners, and I'll just read and write. The days I want to feel more, buzzy, I'll probably go closer to Selfridges and find a cafe there. But it'll be all over London. So London is where I want to be, but not one single place in London.
I love that. That is a great city. I can't wait to go back. We've got GCUC coming up there in October. I hope you'll be able to join us. And Raj, thank you so much. You have been so generous with your time for Juicy, and you have so many fans now from our world, and we just can't wait to see the rest of your research and anything we can do to help you. Please let us know. And you guys, there's going to be a link to buy Raj's book, which you absolutely should. It's The World Is Your Office. Any final thoughts before we go, Raj?
No, thanks, Liz. Thanks for being, I feel part of the family now. So
You are, Raj. Well, have a great rest of your day. And you guys stay tuned. We've got more to come. Thank you for tuning into the Juicy Podcast. If you enjoyed today's episode, don't forget to like and follow us for more juicy content. You can stay connected with us on social media by following us at Juicy Global. We're looking forward to having you join us next time for more insightful discussions. Until then, keep exploring the co-working world with the Juicy Podcast. Ciao.